Gloria in excelsis Deo.
Gloria in excelsis Deo. Welcome to the stream of truth. I am Dr. Tassel Faith Shamebrook.
And I'm Sean Kelly.
And today's topic is union with your twin flame.
And I'm having union with my coffee because I am exhausted.
So I'll just share that Spirit was just on me this morning to talk about this. And it's really interesting because I told Sean before the stream that every morning for a while, I have been writing out this prayer that is, Spirit, please show me the way to the full expression of our divine union. And I've been noticing so clearly when I set these types of intentions, especially kind of repeating it every day, that the teachings come in very intensely. You get what you ask for. You always get what you ask for. So for me, at least, I've been going through a lot of, I would say, initiations, expansions around me and shifting my consciousness to more fully embody the fullest expression of our divine partnership. And the first thing I just want to say, and Sean has helped me understand this, is that we're always in union with our twin flame. So the title, you're already in union. You're already in union with everything. You are everything. Everything is you. So we can just sort of know that to start. You already are in union with your twin flame. You cannot not be in union with your twin flame. Should we just start going through the little points here?
Yeah. Let me just add to that a little bit, just to what you just said, because it's interesting and important. Actually, probably the most important thing we'll ever learn here. Not only are we always in union with our twin flame, we're always in union with everything that exists. So oneness, unity, that concept is the true concept, and separation is not. So anything that has to do with our connection to divinity, or our connection to peace, or our connection to love, or forgiveness, or any of these divine principles, union with another is really union with ourself with another, right? Like we can only love another as much as we love ourselves. We can only accept another as much as we accept ourselves. So when we're doing a sort of twin flame type thing, or divine union, or divine partnership, what we're doing is unioning with ourselves. We're really just remembering that we're already in union with ourselves. That's really what we're doing, and we're forgetting the baggage, forgetting the fear and the separation lies, basically deception, and then growing out of that, remembering out of that. So we're not actually changing anything. We're not connecting in a way that we haven't already been connected. I think I've been talking with Tassel for years, and I don't know if she'll remember this or not, but when we first met, I would tell her, like, I can feel my body getting all warm and tingly and things. Like, when we were talking, I had not encountered a vibration with another person that did this with me this way. So even at that, before we even met, basically there's already a harmony or a vibrational alignment that's happening, that's already there. So basically take all the worldly stuff out of it all, and everything is one thing. So you can't be separate from anyone. This is actually why I had a lot of issue with that twin flame concept, because I'm one with everything. So why would I specialize this one person, right? Like, what would be the benefit there? So after exploring that a lot, I basically, and this is really important and why I think it's important to talk about, because what we're kind of doing is we're creating a safe partner that we can learn how to accept ourselves with safely, basically. Usually it's like sort of contracted, And so what a twin flame is at like soul level and stuff, I was talking to Tassel about this. I don't think we'll totally know for a long time. Like, I think we'll have a bunch of ideas. Oh, we're the same soul that's split, and or these other things. I don't think souls do that at that level, personally. But I don't know enough to know anything about any of that, is sort of my point. That these are all kind of just theories of stuff that people have seen, and a lot of people have said very different things. And that's how we can tell that, like, the humanity is in a bit of a confused state about it. And then really whatever we believe is good enough. So that was one of the issues that I always had with that twin flame concept, was that, you know, if we're trying to achieve a sort of unity consciousness, a oneness place of perspective on the world, then isn't it a little bit opposed to the plan to really, really focus so much on one person in that respect? Say that I'm in union with this one other human being. I think that idea is confused. What we're trying to do is come into union with ourselves together in a safe partnership. And the soul stuff, all the energetic stuff beyond that, is a mystery of like how these things, relationships get contracted and what happened with all that. What we're doing is unioning with ourselves, which we've talked about before, but we're coming into union with ourselves, with our partner, because our partner will unconditionally love us, because we've basically, I think what we've done is sort of contracted this, that we both just sort of agree to try to show up in unconditional love as much as possible, and then occasionally turn that faucet off as well, so that the person has to accept themselves in ways that they hadn't really had to before as well. So like, for example, if I really like praise about my work, let's say, if I'm really attached to receiving praise from other people, my twin probably isn't going to praise me very much. My partner is probably not going to offer tons of praise, because naturally, without the human necessarily being aware, the human partner, my partner is not going to, basically I have a codependent relationship with external praise, right? I'm codependent on receiving it. So the twin will help me heal that in myself so that I don't need it anymore. And then the wonderful thing is that after that, they'll usually start to praise because they want to praise, like they're naturally wanting to love. And so once we release that need for it, then we start to receive it as well a lot of times. So that's how we sort of like have these dynamics. And then we're just creating this like accepted, safe space that isn't always safe as well. And so it's like kind of like we're learning to face fears of environments that don't seem safe, conversations that don't seem safe, but speaking anyway. Maybe like for me, wanting to be accepted all the time, but sometimes feeling not accepted, and having to figure out how to feel okay, that it's just okay, whether I'm accepted or not, it's okay. So we just constantly mirror these different things. And yeah, so it's, but we're already whole in union, and union's already done. We're just remembering what that is, really.
Oh my gosh, there's just so much going on in the divine union interaction. It boggles my mind. It really just boggles my mind how much is going on.
Good morning, Jamie and Joe. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say good morning.
Good morning. And just how helpful it is to really just be in your heart mind and just keep following that pull towards each other, regardless of the programming that's going off in your thinking mind. Like, oh my gosh, this is toxic. Oh my gosh, this doesn't seem right. Oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this. It's just I also think it's just such a huge initiation into faith and into trusting your innermost guidance, which is your heart. So I'm boggled by the journey. I think it's amazing.
It's wacky.
And so this, I think, perfectly leads into the first point that we were going to talk about here, about letting spirit guide you. And to me, there's just so many ways to conceptualize that. Like, okay, I'm letting spirit guide me. I'm letting my heart guide me. I'm letting my gut instinct guide me. I really realize my thinking mind knows nothing. My human mind is just a program. And I said this before, I have so much formal education. I have a bachelor's degree. I have 2 master's degrees. I have a PhD in psychotherapy. And I think a lot of that education was just more matrix programming. And I'll also say, and this might be a bit controversial, that a lot of, I would say, the feminist women's empowerment programming has also been, I see, not helpful to me personally in this coming back to love. And I'll talk more about that. But I guess for me, this first point is just a complete humility and humbleness and surrendering as the human, just over and over again. And also to my partner. Maybe this sounds funny, but Sean is 18 years younger than me. And so in the beginning, especially, I thought like, oh, I'm supposed to be the one who's like, who knows things or whatever. And I've just had to like let go of all of that. And just sometimes I know nothing. And sometimes Sean is my complete teacher in some aspects of this. And sometimes I'm just completely surrendering to Sean's teachings. Sometimes I'm completely surrendering to what's my higher self is coming through. So I would just say one of the biggest pathways for me here is just complete humility, surrendering, letting go of everything that I thought was the truth. And a continual process of that, like almost an everyday process of that. Oh, I thought this was true. Oh, I see. No, that doesn't really actually seem to be aligned with the divine truth. So just almost this constant shedding of the human, the constant shedding of the human over and over and over again, and humility and surrendering and faith and trust.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to touch on something that you said. Actually, there's 2 things that I wanted to mention. The first thing, like you said, that I'm younger than you and that stuff, and then you find yourself learning from me. I also obviously learn from you. I think the human age doesn't matter, basically. Like there are the soul's experiential volume is really all that tends to influence the human life. So basically everyone's thousands and thousands of years old, right? So for us to worry about like how our physical expression here is, how old it is, isn't a huge deal. There is a sort of cosmological maturity that arrives around the age 30-ish, 30 to 33 or so. Prior to that, you're usually a little bit immature in certain ways, but you could still have access to tons and tons of wisdom. So, so Sadhguru had a really good quote. Now I don't know what exactly the quote is, but it's perfect. When a child arrives in your life, it isn't time to teach them your ways. It's time to learn theirs. If we can remember that every other human is a divine child, like a divine child of God, then we can remember that we're always learning from our children, right? So Tassel's my child. Sometimes, other times she's not, because that would be weird. But, but basically we every soul is an innocent sort of child, and it's the innocence that we learn from. It's the innocent exploration of itself that the other is doing in front of us, with us, that we learn from. Like, so for example, just if you look at a child that's playing, they're just having a great time playing in a sandbox. There's not a care in the world, right? They're just loving everything because they haven't inundated themselves with nonsense and drama yet. And we're about to teach it to them because we think that we want to show them our way. And they know the way. We don't. We've lost the way. And so a lot of times we're doing that. We're trying to teach people our way, when a lot of times the universe is kind of asking us to listen to the child's way. Isn't it so? Isn't it? Yeah, Jamie said, isn't it? I love Sadhguru. He's just such a bubbly guy. And he drives a motorcycle, which I love too. This like guru. I think in India they call them godmen. Like the media calls them godmen to sort of make fun of them or to shame it. It's like a weird program going on over there. But yeah, we one of the things he said is like, you came here to learn of enlightenment. Why are you listening to me? Am I enlightened? You may think so. Right? Like just stuff like that. Like, and anyway, I love that guy. But if we can look at everyone like our children, then we can see that, and we can see that spirit's innocence, because you said let spirit guide you. Spirit's innocence is guiding us through these individuals. The more childlike they are, the more innocence is probably there, the more probably to learn about presence and peace from them.
And it seems that so much of the ascension path is coming back to our childlike innocence and peace and divinity before we were so programmed.
Yeah, that's what we're doing here in this. I can't remember what they're called, but it's sort of like an aeon. There's a chunk of time. The Logos explores different archetypes. What we're coming into exploring now is the divine child, basically. So we're expressing divine children here now, and then later, thousands and thousands of years from now, we'll do a different thing. So we're all trying to basically come back to our divine child, our inner child, which doesn't understand conflict and doesn't understand all that stuff, and is just innocently sort of playing and exploring. And that's sort of exactly how we're supposed to live, more or less.
Yes.
But then the other thing that you said was like feminism, feminist empowerment, also racism, or various sort of movements to try to reclaim power that's been taken. What tends to happen, it makes sense. It's natural. It makes sense that, like, let's say that the entire gender feels wronged by the patriarchy. It makes perfect sense. But what ends up happening is all of that anger and resentment from women, basically, to the men, ends up getting projected to sort of all men. So then the men who, like myself, for example, have nothing to do, never had patriarchal type thoughts, never cared at all about any of that stuff. But I inherit the guilt sort of my forefathers, right? Like I inherit this projection from women that I am trying to take stuff from them, I'm trying to control them, or I'm trying to, whatever it is. We end up having these skewed experiences. And so the women they want to love themselves, but a lot of times they won't be willing to maybe include men in this process because they don't maybe trust it, or no, it's time for me to do it on my own, or, things like that, which is fine, but we're overcorrecting to like a place of like imbalance and sort of basically not letting go of the past, of what happened in the past, and just creating in harmony now, instead of like, we're overcorrecting, and we'll come back. We'll come back.
Yes. But it can be very divisive and very separating, as you said. And this sort of leads perfectly into the second point we had here about union with your twin flame, transmuting everything into forgiveness, love, and peace. And there's just so much to say here. What I want to start by saying is, of course, we are all just forgiveness, love, and peace underneath all of our programming. We are divinity. We are divine beings in these human suits. That's all we are. There's nothing to really force here. We're just removing all the layers of what we're not from the programming through all these different lifetimes as well. And I would think that probably all of us may have this experience, like, all I want is to just be love. That feels so good when I'm really fully embodying love. I love to be love. I think as probably we all do. But I can get caught in the programming. And I just want to give a couple like real life examples of this, if that's okay. My car has been teaching me so much in the past 2 weeks. My car has been my ascension vehicle, literally. So yesterday, I was driving and another car hit me as I was driving. And it was pretty scary. There was a lot of noise. I could see a lot of car parts spewing up in the air. There was like a big impact of the crash. And, it was disturbing and scary. And I got out of my car and I actually saw that my car hadn't really been damaged. Everything I thought had happened had actually happened to a third car that was involved in this, which was very interesting to me. It was like I received the shock of the accident sort of energetically, but in reality, not much had happened. And I'm noticing this over and over and over again.
Path of least resistance. Path of least resistance.
Yeah. I'm getting catalysts that can seem really big, but actually they're really minimal. But they're a perfect pathway for me to learn something. So in the end, the accident was very minimal. Like there was almost no damage to my car. But as I try to do, I'm like, okay, what's the lesson here? Why did this happen? What are the energetics? What was I holding in my energy that created this? And this morning I woke up and I realized. So when I thought about sort of my experience in that moment of the car impacting me, one of my thoughts was, how could you do this? Like to the other car, like, what are you doing? Like, how could you do this to me? That's the thought I think I was holding when it first happened. How could you run into me? And okay, this is so interesting. I had been holding that energy around something between Sean and I. This probably, maybe you know what I'm talking about. So
yep.
I had been like tuning into some feelings around our separation last year when Sean kind of went out of contact with me for really good reasons, and it all made sense spiritually and energetically. But it seemed like what I realized, I think it was my inner child was still having some trouble with what had happened. And the way it came up was sometimes when Sean and I would get off the phone and he would say, okay, I'm going to leave now, or I'm going to let you go, I would have some like pain come up. And I didn't really understand why that was coming up. So I was trying to like just tune into like, what am I feeling when he wants to get off the phone with me? And what was coming up, I think this is from my inner child, was how can he leave me? How could he leave me? And I think it was related back to that separation. So I was trying to just clear this energy because I could see it was still impacting the present. So I was just trying to go into it. And I was just realizing, oh, there is some of that energy I think my inner child is holding. Like, how could he leave me for 3 months? She was feeling pain around that. But what I realize is, and I'm still kind of working this out, like, feel the feelings, but you got to clear them. You have to clear them, because I don't think I totally cleared those feelings. And so that was in my energetic field. And then basically I called in this situation with a car hitting me. That's how I see it. So I always talk about feel your feelings, feel your feelings, feel your feelings. I really believe in that. But I think because especially the energy of manifestation is speeding up.
Yeah. Yep.
So you don't want to suppress your feelings. You don't want to shy away from your feelings. But I think the invitation here is to transmute as sort of quickly as possible any of those lower vibrational feelings into love and forgiveness back to the universe. So I'm almost just getting in right now is what you can do as a practice is feel your feelings. Okay, my inner child felt, how could you leave me? That she felt that, she did. Okay, I'm not going to hide from that. Okay, I feel those feelings and I'm gonna let myself feel it. And then I'm just immediately give it to God. I'm immediately giving all that energy to God and ask for the energy of forgiveness and love and peace to come in its place. And I think that's how I'm going to move through these things from now on. And I think this situation yesterday just was a huge lesson of, Tassel, this is the way to do it.
Yeah. And if I could just add on to that a little bit, basically, if you think about it this way, like when we're feeling something bad, let's say someone does something to us, someone does something that hurts our feelings, like whatever it is, we feel that we have been wronged. They are, and we see them as being at fault for this wrongdoing because we feel hurt. Now, at the 3D reality level, they may have done something that is not very harmonious, right? Like they may have actually done things that reflected pain we're already feeling. But basically, it's our incorrect belief that the other has done something wrong to us, when really it's our feelings that have caused us pain. It's not that the other did these things. It's our own feelings about ourselves that caused us pain. And so we can clear the feelings. And like Tassel said, when we give it to God and ask for forgiveness, that's the key, is forgiveness. We have to realize, we have to let the other people always off the hook, like for our feelings, because when we don't, we have a belief that, like, first we have a fundamental belief in reality that other people do stuff to us, so it's okay to be angry with them or hurt by them and feel resentful and all these things. Once we start to realize that that's not how the universe works, like you feel hurt because of your own hurt. And of course, some of the objective things people are doing in the world are not ideal for you and you can remove yourself from them. But the point of it is just not to hang on to the idea that they've done something wrong to you, to just correct the belief that I feel bad because, like, basically if I was whole within myself already and knew that in that moment, whatever they did wouldn't harm me at all. I wouldn't notice anything. So the reason I'm noticing it is because I'm noticing I have a wound here. And basically, like, if we don't actually correct the belief that caused us to feel wronged, like, we'll continue to perceive wrongdoing, or we won't let go of the old wrongdoing. And whenever little similar things come up, like if I were to leave abruptly, or, you know, other things that are kind of similar, or like maybe feelings of missing me come up, or something like that, that remind us of the trauma that we endured when I went on the break, then we're gonna start to build on that resentment again, basically, because the belief that I was done wrong by this individual is still there. And so if that belief is still there, then we'll build on it. Like we'll put emotion on it, and then eventually it becomes something that we address. It comes up and we're like, oh my God, I didn't realize I still have all this to feel. And it's to stop that, we have to correct the belief, which is basically just forgiving not just the other person, but also forgiving ourselves and the universe for this whole thing, like letting go of the details and the circumstances of what actually occurred, and essentially just moving on from it. But you have to feel the feelings. So it's not about like rejecting the feelings or the feelings aren't real. But what's happened is that the universe doesn't work the way we've been taught. And when we see someone do something and it hurts our feelings, we blame them. And that doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. What's really interesting to me is pretty much up until now, I think I had been just in like my spiritual self about the separation. And I saw it all very spiritually, like we co-created the experience and I needed to experience quote unquote abandonment because I had experienced that a lot in my life and that needed to come up for me. And so I thought like I was all good. I thought I saw it totally from this higher order perspective, and that I thought there was nothing kind of low vibrational within me. And I thought I had totally forgiven. But it seems like there was a part of me, my inner child, my human, that still felt hurt about it. And because I don't think I really allowed those feelings to flow through me.
Right.
I think like my spiritual ego was like, don't go there. That's not spiritual to feel whatever, the anger or the hurt. So it was just, I don't know. I'm still trying to sort of totally make sense of the whole thing.
Can I offer a guess?
Yeah.
Like what I'm feeling about it is, and this, just take it or leave it, but more likely, like when we came back together, you had a lot of these feelings very fresh, probably a desire to talk about them, but also a fear that if we talk about them, then maybe he's going to leave again, or like, it's not really safe. I'll wait until things are a little more stable. And so you had a whole bunch of creation in fear, emotion created in fear and pain that you just sort of accepted as that's okay. Sort of tried to take the higher perspective, but all of that created pain didn't really get dealt with, I think. And so then it came up later.
Yeah, that's what I was texting you the night I was sharing this. I said, I think I haven't felt safe enough in our relationship to bring this stuff up, because in previous relationships within my family, for instance, as a child, if I brought up something that maybe was difficult for the other person to hear, I would be abandoned. So yeah, 100%. So I'm just like, I realized like I created this whole thing myself just from my own fear. Like if I hadn't been in fear when you and I did get back together, I could have just said like, okay, I'm so happy that you're back. And I know that spiritually, energetically, we co-created this and there's no like blame or criticism. At the same time, my human, my inner child has some feelings of like, I feel hurt, I feel angry, I feel abandoned. And then just kind of dealt with it then, rather than having carried it through this like a year's time, basically.
Yeah. And like the interesting thing about it all is, from our human perspectives, both of us see the other as the one who did it. So I see you as caused it. You're the one who caused it to me, to Sean. Like I know better than that, right? So I don't actually have that belief, but my experience was that I was abandoned and it was not safe to be myself. So I stepped away. And your experience was that you were abandoned by me stepping away, but I felt that I was abandoned first. So so we both had the same experience, basically.
Yeah.
And so it kind of becomes obvious that like one of us, we're both kind of wrong, basically, right? Like we're both kind of wrong from the human perspective about what actually occurred, who abandoned who, and what like no one abandoned anyone. Basically, we had abandonment energy in both of us, and we abandoned ourselves. And like, you know, I abandoned myself in you know, I didn't think it was possible for basically for what we were starting to create. I started to think it wasn't possible. So I had this, you know, I just let go of everything, like just, but basically, yeah. So it becomes just very clear. And then when you were bringing it up the other day, for me, it was very surprising, sort of like I have let go of all of it. So for it to just sort of come up out of nowhere like that, for me, it was out of nowhere. And I'm not, you know, I know it's not random. I know it's not, but it was very unsettling for me because I thought we were kind of past it, and then it all comes up, and it's hard to hear all these things. And I don't think I was properly prepared to receive it. So it's all good. I'm just sort of explaining like how both of us perceive that the other did something to cause our pain. And, you know, if we just look at objectively, if I look at my experience, I felt abandoned. So then I left, which made my feeling worse. So I created abandonment stuff. I abandoned and was abandoned, and, you know, so and it doesn't even matter if I was or wasn't abandoned. It's just that I perceived abandonment in myself, right? And then abandonment happened, right? So, yeah, so that's sort of like how we can tell that, and in almost all situations, whenever partners are in fights of any kind, where both are upset, both see that the other's done something stupid or whatever, right? Like both are blaming the other one for something, usually.
Yes.
So
like
who's right?
Part of what we talk about this all the time is just to let go of you, or he or she did whatever. Just, okay, what is just arising in me? That's all I can know for sure. I don't need to put a story on what has happened here. Just, okay, this is the situation, and this is what is arising in me. I feel this. And then to just forgive whatever has happened. So This is what I just want to keep coming back to and getting more and more, hopefully masterful at, is this is what's arising in me, and I'm giving it to God. I'm transmuting it into forgiveness, love, and peace, and I'm forgiving everything, like, immediately.
The best way to train yourself to be able to interrupt your thoughts that way too, because in order for you to apply forgiveness, you have to realize that you're blaming someone. The ego will try not to like make it so apparent that that's what's happening. Like the ego will try to like hide it a bit, and try to sort of frame it a little differently, so we don't notice quite that we're blaming. We just are really upset with them, and then we don't want to admit we're blaming because we know that we don't really want to be judgmental people, but we will be judgmental. We just won't see ourselves as judgmental when we're doing it. So we're blaming and sort of throwing guilt at people. In order for us to interrupt that, we have to notice we're doing it, and to build strength in noticing that, meditation, basically, learn just basically when we sit quietly and just let our thoughts come in, and then we let them go, and then they come in and we let them go. We're basically learning that muscle of like deciding what thought to engage in and what thought not to, so that the ego, when the ego goes, oh, they're a jerk, we're like, no, they're not. We can just let go of it because we've trained our mind through meditation to be able to do that. That's the main benefit of meditation, is to be able to work in your consciousness a little cleaner.
Yes.
But you have to interrupt.
To understand, I am not my thoughts. I am not my feelings. Feelings and thoughts may arise in me, but I am not my thoughts. I'm not my feelings. And what I also want to add on to what you've said, which is great, is that I think part of the human's urge to blame is because it distracts us away from our own pain and the own inner work that really is being called for. It's kind of easy to sit in, oh, like, look what he did, and sort of absolve ourselves of any responsibility in the situation or whatever. So I know I'm going to get it right better and better, but I just want to keep coming back to whatever is arising in me is completely my own responsibility. And I can just let go of anything that anyone else is doing or not doing and just do my inner work. That's all I'm in control of. That is my responsibility. That's where I want my focus. And I just love this idea of like, love yourself, love your partner, love everyone else, no matter what. Just forgive, 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 love, love, love. That's it. And this is where I can get a little bit confused from my formal education in psychotherapy. And you brought it up, I brought it up, like women's empowerment and feminism. And I'll just say, this is so interesting for me to see this, is that sometimes in certain interactions with you where my human may feel like, oh, I have not been treated properly here or something, you know, I'll think of a few women in my life. One is in my family, one is a friend. And I'll think of them and I'll be like, oh, like they would be kind of upset with me if I didn't sort of like stand up for myself here. I can feel that's part of what's going on for me. I have this like, oh, if I'm a feminist or if I'm really an empowered woman, like these other women in my life, then I wouldn't put up with this. You know, I would set my boundaries and I would, you know, this is not right. And that all doesn't feel right. That all feels very dense. That all feels very lower vibrational to me. I know that is not who I am. So I can see there's just more for me to let go of here. And there's more like sort of voices in my head to turn the volume down and to let go of that and to just always come back to my heart. What does my heart say? Yeah. My heart says, like, just forgive and love and know everyone's doing their best. Everyone's a divine being of light. I'm doing stupid things at times. And I'm being forgiven and loved back. And I'll just say, between you and me, like the continual flow of love and forgiveness towards each other, it makes me cry, is so beautiful. And it's not like we've ever done like horrible things to each other at all, but you know, most of the stuff we get into is basically nothing. I know, that's what I was going to say again. Like the catalysts are tiny. Basically nothing at all. They're really tiny. It's not like somebody said a sentence that we don't like, and then we're like, I know. It's not like, you know, we haven't cheated on each other. We haven't like stolen each other's money or, you know, nothing. We haven't hit each other. Nothing. Not big. Yet. We'll get to those ones. We'll do those ones later. Nothing big has ever happened. Like exactly what you just said. The biggest things have been like, he said something or she said something that hurt my feelings. I have our biggest problem is we're sensitive. That's our problem, basically. Yeah. It's not a problem. And we did have a separation for 3 months. That probably was like the biggest thing. But we co-created it, as we said, we both created it. So I just want to say, like, I'm just really grateful that you and I seem to always come back to love and forgiveness towards ourselves and towards each other. And that's point number 2 here. And I just want to say, the as within, so without. As we hold peace within us, as we hold forgiveness within us, as we hold harmony within us, we are going to see that in our partner. We're going to see that in our relationship. We're going to see that in all aspects of our environment. There's that beautiful phrase, peace starts with you. It does.
Yeah. Yeah. And it becomes harder and harder that I've noticed, when one of our partners, so if I'm bringing a bunch of crap to Tassel, my crap, my fear, I call it crap, but my fear, right? If I bring a lot of that to her, she's probably going to feel freaked out or upset somehow, or she's going to feel like something's not safe. And it's the same way when she does it to me. And so both of us, I think, are then invited to basically maintain our position of higher vibration while the other is in fear, instead of joining them in the fear. Like, instead of taking their indicators of fear and going, oh, we're afraid now. Like,
it's like, all shit.
Everything's horrible. Instead of doing that, we hold the higher thing and let them run through their, what else can we do, really? So, but we both are falling, like, we've been talking about this for a little while now, where, like, when one of us brings up some fear stuff, or, like, I get really sensitive around judgment and acceptance. Like, I'm okay with feedback, but I kind of want to ask for it. Like, I kind of want to, if I didn't ask for feedback, then why is someone telling me how I should be? What makes them think I care what they think? Not just Tassel, but any human being. Like, why? I'm not asking. And so I'm learning this constant lesson of people like to be helpful. People like to give feedback to be helpful. It's a thing humans do that I don't seem to be used to, where they're like, oh, I have a great idea for you. Why don't you do this thing? And then I'm sort of like, why don't you mind your business? I don't know. Like, maybe they have good advice, but it doesn't matter, because to me, they're infringing on my space almost. And so I'm learning this lesson of that as well, where, like, just because somebody offers me feedback, I don't have to be like, don't judge me, don't tread on me, right? Like, freak out. So a lot of it is sort of how we teach each other these weird lessons. And, for me, it's a lot of it is all about, like, judgment and fear. I'm really big about how fear is not real. So when people are talking about fear or things they're scared of, I have a lot of trouble, like, what's the word? Like, supporting them in that. Like, I'm not very good at it yet. I'm getting better, I think, but I have trouble, because I'm like, you're telling me stuff that's not true. And I've said this to Tassel before, and it doesn't land well, because the person's in pain or in fear in that moment. And then I start to say stuff. And basically what I'm trying to get at is that in order for me to help better, I have to forgive the fear, basically. Forgive all we can do is worry about ourselves. If somebody approaches us with some fear, our partner approaches us with fear and they're upset, we can care that they are upset and just forgive that, like, because sometimes we can be a little frustrated as well that our partner's doing stuff that, like, this doesn't resonate. Like, basically that's what's happening is if Tassel brings fear to me, I'm sort of like, this doesn't resonate. Like, this is icky. Why are we doing this? Like, because for me, there's no issue going on. There's no fear. And it's kind of like the human is like, well, she's brought this to me. Right. And it's icky for me because I have a thing with it. Like, there's a thing in me with this fear. So it's our fear. But at the human level, it can be a little bit frustrating or upsetting, uncomfortable for the human. And basically, it's, again, back to what Tassel was saying, transmute that and just be like, it's okay. It's okay that they're afraid about something. It's an opportunity to wonder, like, am I afraid about these things too? Do I need to be afraid? Like, and then just letting them basically be afraid and trying to reassure as best you can. But like it becomes challenging. I think. And because Tassel and I are like unique in the way that we teach this stuff too, I think we can get a little like, at least for me, I can get a little like, if I'm not in fear, I'm like, we don't teach this. Like, this isn't what we are about. But when I'm in fear, it's okay. It's okay to be in fear when I'm in fear. Then that's fine, right? Like I'm a hypocrite, right? So the ego, not me, the ego is a hypocrite, and it doesn't care about logic and like what's fair. It doesn't give a shit about any of that. How can I be either aggrandized over someone, or how am I worse than someone? That's all it cares, because both of those things motivate us to do things. So that's how it gets us to do everything we do. And we could just like kind of stop that, but we got to notice it. But
yes. And something that I just want to say here is that you talked about, you have some stuff around like judgment and acceptance that can be, I think, like very painful for you to feel judged or not accepted. And I was just noticing, like, I think people can feel hurt, but it doesn't mean they're not accepting the other person. And that's kind of what I just wanted to delineate. Like, sometimes hurt arises in me from some type of interaction with you. And at the same time, I feel I still accept you, but I can sometimes feel hurt.
The energy feels like that. So it doesn't matter like what you're saying, or the energy feels like I'm not accepted. So like, because I'm not resonating, what I've just did is not resonating with you, basically.
Yeah. So maybe tweaking this is for me, and I try to do this, to just do the emotional processing on my own, and then come back to you and say, oh, my human felt some hurt in this interaction, but at that point, maybe the energy would feel a bit different. That I've kind of like run it through me. Yeah,
like that's why if we talk about it after and we're both like from an objective place, we're not stirred.
Yes.
Then I don't feel judged or criticized, because I feel the energy of it, like
in the moment.
In the moment. So if I'm talking, and even in the stream, I'll feel it sometimes. I'll be speaking and I'll feel something isn't resonating. I'm not being accepted. Like my energy is not being accepted fully. And that's okay. It's natural, and it happens to me constantly all day with people. And so that's what makes me so sensitive to it, though, is because I'm so aware of that I can't not notice it. And I know that it is at energetic level, it's barriers, it's blocks coming up, resistances. It's not acceptance. We don't energetically. So I'm not saying that you're necessarily judging, or like in your sort of feelings or in your thoughts necessarily judging anything, but the being like is not resonating with what I offer. So there's a bias that's being applied somehow to what I'm offering. Whatever we call it, what I'm offering is not really being allowed in properly, because it feels bad somehow. And so it's natural, but I don't have to take that personally, though.
Yeah. And I also just want to say, like, in the moment, if I'm not resonating with something, or even after I've processed it and I still don't resonate with it, to me, it doesn't mean I don't accept you. Doesn't mean I don't accept you. It might mean I just don't particularly resonate with that particular orientation.
Well, I think I've told you before. So like, if you tell me, if you're looking at an umbrella and you're like, that umbrella is disgusting, part of me cringes at that, because I hear you're disgusting. I don't hear the umbrellas. I hear that the universe, God, is disgusting. I hear that So I hear what you're saying. And basically, it's my responsibility to be able to receive all of this stimuli and like be okay. It's my sensitivity as a intuitive, whatever we call me, in this particular expression. So it's my responsibility to be to not be attached to basically whether or not people resonate with what I'm doing. Like, it's basically that's what's going to free me to just literally really be what I'm supposed to be, is this type of thing. And so
I think this is huge for me and everyone.
It is.
We are not responsible for other people's emotions.
We're not at all.
Whatever is our authentic orientation is what we are here to be. And how that triggers or makes other people uncomfortable is not our, we don't own that.
Yeah, like for example, I spend lots of effort and energy in our conversations sometimes to try to word things very particular ways that I know you like better, for example. And I don't mind doing that, but my natural expressions are more blunt, more direct, and more harsh sometimes. Especially if I'm agitated, right? And so I'm learning how to balance that. So it's a good thing that I'm learning that. But there's also something to be said about me restricting myself in some of the ways that I do, as well. So I'm learning that balance of like, there's always a balance when it comes to vocalizing anything. What do I say versus what's appropriate to share and say, and what's just kind of not appropriate, and what's kind of just hurtful, right? Like, because sometimes when we're sharing stuff, like, we get excited about all the stuff we want to share, and sometimes what we're sharing is just like we kind of want to attack a little bit. Like our ego, our egoic self is sort of really wanting to be heard. Really wanting to be heard. Is really important that this person understands exactly what they've done to me. And it's a type of retaliation that's kind of covert, because we tell ourselves stuff like, or you might say something like, I need to speak my truth about this, right? And the question is, I'm not saying we don't do that, of course. I'm just saying the question is like, is this truth like real? Is this real, or am I just upset about stuff? And do I actually need to tell? And I'm not saying don't tell me things, of course. These are the questions I ask myself, and I'm just asking them here. But, a lot of times I'm like, I have to tell her, and then I'm like, no, I don't. I don't have to tell her that. And then I just let it go. But
we're really exploring this because you and I are so committed to truth and to communicate truth. But then what is really highest and best and most benevolent overall to communicate? And I think we're just like knee deep in this exploration.
Yeah. No, I that's exactly what it is. It's how, so what I landed on with it, and this is great that we're talking about it, is just, if I'm going to tell a story that feels painful, then I should lead by identifying that this is a story. Like, this is a story that my human self and identity feels about. This is not true. It's not the truth. Like, this is a story that I'm in. And here's the story. I'd like to tell you my story. And like basically frame it as like, I know that this story is not so much true, but this is what I've been experiencing.
Yes.
And if we frame it that way, then I'm basically saying, I know it's not true. The truth is that I'm learning of myself, all blah, blah, blah. But what's true is that none of that matters. So for me to speak the truth, then I'm sort of at an impasse. If I want to share an experience, the experience itself is an illusion. So what am I sharing? And so it just becomes a question of how we position what we're sharing, I think.
Yes.
Like, I'm sharing a story. I know it's a story. Because if we share something as if it is truth, the other person is going to feel like hurt, probably. If the truth, most stories that we have to share aren't super happy stories. Right?
Totally. And I always say this, like, you know that maybe you should wait if you have such an urge to share a painful story, because the ego is looking to, like, I don't know, involve the other person in your pain or kind of show them how they hurt you. If there's such an urge, it probably is an indication to wait. And you might not need to share any of it or all of it.
I would offer that if you have pain and a deep urge, wait.
Stop. Yes.
Because you're gonna, from that urge, that's your ego trying to create more pain. Like, if you stop the cycle there, you can start to heal. But if you continue with that urge, you're gonna say some shit. Yeah,
and it's gonna just
it's gonna spiral.
Cycle. And you and I have experienced this, I would say, over a few months, that exactly what we're talking about. And I think both of us want to stop that cycle.
And we understand, and that this is really important, because we understand these principles and still encounter it. So
yes, our humans still sometimes takes over the driver's wheel.
We get lost in these situations, and so we have to be patient with ourselves and our partners. It's okay. It's okay. Basically.
And I want to share that you said, you know, if you need to go there, you could say, okay, this is the story that's coming up for me right now. And as I was relating to you some of my human's pain around our separation last year, I put everything in quotation marks. And that was a bit of a step for me. And I think the way I handled it, I could do it much better. And
I don't think I even noticed the quotes. Maybe I wasn't supposed to. I saw it after. You're like, I said it in quotes, and I was like, oh. But when I first received it, I was like, oh my God. Like, what is all this?
And also what I said, and I still think I can do it better. I said, like, I'm not trying to criticize you or anything. I just want to get some of this stuff up and out of me, because it seems to be stuck in me.
Right.
And I'm like, these are my human's feelings. There's no criticism. You don't have to even reply. You've already explained, you know, what happened. There's no criticism, but I seem to still have some of this stuff stuck in me, and I'm putting it in quotes because it's not me.
That whole thing was so confusing for me. That whole, so it's okay. It's all good.
I won't do that again, but I'm just saying that was a little bit of a elevation for me to put it in quotes. This is not me. This is some stuck feelings in me, but I still think I can do it way better. But it's just interesting how, I mean, I'm in my 50s. I've been in relationships my whole life. I have a doctorate in therapy, and I am still learning how to communicate.
It never ends, right? Like, that's I'm just like, it never ends.
Oh my gosh. Like,
we always are learning. Like, that's why I always say, like, we never will know. We don't know here. So, like, we know what we know, and we could know a good amount of stuff, but we don't know it all, and we're never done. We just keep going even after we leave the planet and move on to other places. Like, we're still doing the same stuff, basically.
Yeah, and I think, like, the biggest thing for me in this topic is pause. You'll never go wrong by pausing and waiting. It'll never go wrong. Just, like, shut your mouth.
Associate pain. Pain is fear, is confusion. Mm-hmm. So when we're in pain and fear and confusion, don't create stuff. Stop. Just stop.
That's a perfect way to think. It's so easy.
Just stop.
Just stop. Take a break. It's a timeout. Just take a timeout. When you're in pain and fear, take a timeout. Sleep on it.
And you're going to have lots of urges to, like, send them. I want to send a message, or
yes.
You're going to have lots of that stuff.
I want to share this.
I have to just tell him. I want to
share my truth.
I have to tell him how stupid he is. Fucking stupid he is. He ignores me. But basically, yeah, we have to just stop, because when
your urge,
we're just going to create pain.
Yeah, you're so right.
We create fear. Like, if you think about,
that's a really easy way to think of it.
Think about when you got a shitty job that you hated, right, in your life or any situation. Oh my God, I need money. I need this. Oh, I'm struggling. I'm going to go get this job. And what happens is you go and get a shitty job because you're creating in a fear struggle state, a lack state. So you go and create more shit, and then more lackful stuff is there. Whereas if you have an aligned, expansive goal and then go do that, the whole thing just feels great. So it's because you start from expansion. And so when you're in fear and pain is fear. So like pain in the body is just the body's fear, basically, right? It's not real. That's why people can shut pain off and like sit in a tub of ice and do all these weird stuff. It's not real. It's a signal, and we can ignore the signals. So fear and pain, stop. That's what I try to do. I've always tried to do it. It's hard to do, though. And it's hard because the egoic part of us that like drives us, like really pushes us to do stuff. So anything we could do to interrupt that, the easiest thing to do, and I always forget this, but try to feel the inside of your hands with your consciousness. So it takes like 3 seconds. Just try to feel the inside of your hands with your consciousness. Like, move your consciousness to the inside of your hands and just feel that. That will interrupt any thought processes and everything, because you can't focus on the pain and that at the same time, really. So you can do that, and that will hopefully interrupt it. And then you can remind yourself that I'm not doing these things. I'm not going to engage. Anything you could think of to stop yourself. I've actually uninstalled my Messenger app before, for example, like, so because I text Tassel on Messenger. So like, if I was really hurt, I just uninstall the app, because I know I don't want the app even there on my phone. I need to just step away. And I don't think I even told her that I did this. I just uninstall it for an hour or two or whatever, and then when I feel better, I put it back on and I talk to her.
You told me you did that last year. You still do that now? I don't know how to do that.
I've done it like 2 or 3 times probably total. Okay. So I did it last year, and then I did it 1 or 2 times probably more recently. But
it's so interesting. Like, we're basically just saying that just wait. Just wait to communicate is a huge lesson here. Just wait.
And if you are going to communicate, like, I know we say there's no bad emotions, and that's true. The emotions aren't bad, but there are positive and negative frequencies to them. If we're going to communicate negative frequencies, like negative emotions to people, fear, pain, sadness, despair, any of these things, it's important probably to, and I'm just starting to get this a bit, but probably to invite them, like, to that with you. Ask them if they want to join you in this thing. Like, you're having some pain and you'd like to talk about it. Would you mind if we talked about it? That type of stuff. And positioning it more that way. And trying to basically say, like, let's go into the illusion together to talk about the feelings and the pain and the experience. And if you go in that way, then the other person, at least for me anyways, I think I would feel a lot more sort of like we're just exploring sort of intellectually, almost objectively. We're just looking at stuff here. We're not so in the pain. The issue is that for me, that Tassel, very emotional person. And so when she's talking about her pain, she can get very emotional. And that's all. I'm very, very sensitive to that, to other people's emotions and stuff. So then I start to freak out. And so I think it's just important that, like, when we're talking about the stories, we like address it in a way that's like, we're both kind of aware that that's what we're talking about. And because I think what happens is we misinterpret what's going on. And sometimes I'll be talking about my human's feelings as stories, well aware that that's what they are. And then I realize, oh, I've offended her sort of. I've hurt her with some of what I've said. Some of the presumptions that my human made have been hurtful to her. I'm not saying that I'm presuming these things, but the human was. I was trying to, right? So we can realize that it's because I didn't preface all of that with like, here's a story. Would you like to hear a fairy tale? Because I'll tell you one. Sean woke up this morning and then you were mean to me. Right? So like there's a sort of just a balance there. And I think it's different for everyone. And Tassel and I have this kind of opposite aligned goal and opposite sort of expression style, I guess. Like the way that we decide to express stuff is almost like opposite, and so we sort of are like, I think, guiding each other to a balanced way of that, I guess. And you'll probably find that it's similar with any partner that you have.
Yeah, and I think at the core, we're talking about mindfulness here. We're talking about just cultivating this continual mindfulness of some distance, perspective on what is going on in my feeling, thought body. And I'm up here just sort of observing. And I think what we've been exploring in our partnership is that if we're each just an individual entity, not really in partnership, the storms that we may go through emotionally are just affect us. And well, they don't. They affect everyone around us.
Yeah.
But I think we're just seeing a very clear example of the storms that I'm going through. If I'm bringing it to my partner, I'm bringing them a storm too. And is that what I really want to do? No, I don't really want to do that. So I think what it provides is more motivation to be more mindful ourselves, because I'm hurting myself, I'm hurting you. I don't want to do that. So I just think it's like another carrot. There's so many carrots on this journey.
I'm really glad you said that, because like I think you probably have noticed about me, I don't tend to like bring up fear that much myself. Like I have been doing it a little more lately. Because I was thinking you were teaching me to do that. And so I started to try it, like bringing up stuff that I'm afraid of or stuff that was painful for me. And I don't like, so I'm still forming this concept for myself around this.
Yeah.
I think that this is outdated type behavior, like human behavior. I don't think that this type of behavior is going to continue, because when I've been analyzing it, like in myself at least, when I'm upset and I want to talk to someone, it's because I want comfort, probably. Like I want to share, to get it out, to explore it myself, but also to feel accepted and like it's okay, and all of that stuff. And I think what I'm realizing is we're moving towards more of the universe wanting us to do that ourselves. Like, not that I have any personal issue with helping anyone through something or when they're in something. I'm here to help. But I think what I've noticed is that the help I'm offering Tassel is never the right help. And I think what's happening is it's forcing her to get help on her own, basically, in certain areas. Because when I try to help, everything goes wrong. So it's a lesson for me that I don't have to try and help, that it's okay, accept her how she is. This is how I see it anyway. Accept her how she is. There's some pain coming up and it's okay. I don't have to feel the urge to correct it. Like, it's okay. Right? So that's my lesson. And then I think on her side, he's not going to give me the help that I really want here. Like, what I really want is to feel better, or to feel like I can express safely, these types of things. But underneath all of that, the reason a lot of times that we feel called to talk about it is because we don't quite feel safe to do it on our own somehow. Like somehow it feels better for us to do it with others. And I think that there's some value there, but I'm wondering now about why the universe is starting to seem to make that not seem like a great idea. Like and maybe it'll change, maybe it'll shift, but I have a feeling that it has to do with recycling energy. Like when we are not sourcing our own energy and we're pulling it, like we're asking another to come to us to help us build up. We're asking them to give us some of their energy, basically. Humans do it constantly to each other. It's very normal. There's nothing wrong with it. But we're doing that, and I think the universe, I think we're moving to sovereignty more, to sourcing our own power from ourselves, not from our materials or relationships or whatever. And I think that's part of the reason that this corrective stuff's happening, where like Tassel might want help from me or I might want help from her, and it just goes horrible. It doesn't go right. Because I think emotionally or with our power or our energy or whatever it is, we're just being guided back in.
Yeah, and I would just say, like, we had, to me, one of our top 3 best conversations ever a couple of days ago. I got triggered, and then I just went for a walk, and I just was there for myself, and I just worked through my stuff myself, and then we talked a bit, and it went great.
Yeah, I think because, like, you weren't in... Neither of us were in a...
I wasn't in the storm.
We weren't in a storm or a lackful state. We weren't in fear. We had moved through that. So the universe, I think, is just inviting us to move through all that first.
Yes.
Because when we're in the lackful state, that's when we need the other to talk to. Otherwise, when we're not in the lackful state, we don't need to talk to them. We would just enjoy it. It's just nice to talk to them, and there's no problem that's being talked about. It'll be nice to talk this through. It's not I need to get it off my chest. So
yeah,
I think that's
I agree with you
part
that
of it.
We're being invited to not need.
I think we need to center ourselves before we talk to people, basically.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to manifest.
And I think it's interesting for me because I'm a therapist by training. So I'm in the mindset of, when you're upset, you talk to someone about it.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And so I'm saying that I agree. I think this is a bit, it's an intermediary step, perhaps. I'm not saying you shouldn't talk to a therapist, but because I was also thinking for myself that I used to, like, if I was upset or triggered, I'd like keep a list on a piece of paper of things to talk about with a therapist or a healer I was working with, rather than like really just deal with it on my own right then and there. Yeah. And I'm totally out of that now. And what I also try to do now is, like, when something's coming up, I try to deal with it immediately if I can. Yeah. You can't always do that. But anyway, I guess what I'm saying, I agree with you. And I think the universe is just showing us that things go much better between us when we each do the inner work on our own. And then if we want to come together and just talk about it. Yeah. We're just talking about it. There's no like big thing we need to fix. We're just talking about it.
Like you said about the therapist, the important part, like with a therapist, they're objective. They're not involved in your life, right? So like your day-to-day life, they're not personally invested in your sort of emotional state beyond trying to help you like express yourself and feel your feelings and come to sort of understandings about yourself, right? They're not moved or swayed by your emotion. So
well, then they're not in a relationship with you, and you're not talking about your hurts about them.
If you were talking to your therapist about how shitty your therapist is,
they might get triggered too.
They may not be able to hold space for that so well, right?
Yeah.
So,
and another example is like, many times you have held space for me of things that have nothing to do with you.
that's where I was going with it. Exactly.
Like when my hair was falling out, oh my God, this was really painful for me. And you held space for me. Things around family members. Like, I think what we're saying is it's much easier, obviously, to hold space for anyone when their hurt is not about you. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So we can still have the conversations. Like, we can still do all the talking. We can still express how the human felt. We could still do all of the exploration of it. We just don't do it when we're in the middle of the pain.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's
the main lesson.
I'm so glad that we kind of just landed on that right now. Cause we have been in a lot of chaos in our communication over the past few months, basically.
We've just been kind of repeating, both of us have been repeating some of the same type of errors and just in like little nuances and we're both sensitive and we get triggered easily. So,
and I also want to say that I think texting can be very seductive to the ego because it's like a stream of consciousness. You get out a lot. Like it's like, the thing is though, just text yourself if you want. Okay, I'm going to text myself everything I'm feeling. I don't need to text him.
That's why when you texted me all the stuff the human's feeling, I'm like, so even if you are just dumping it out, you're giving it to me.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? All this? Like, cause all that stuff. And so I didn't understand what's going on really. So on my side, I was sort of like, I just felt like an asshole, basically. I just like, okay, here's all the ways that she sees that I was a jerk to her. And then I'm kind of, but then intermixed in there, you're like, no criticism, but here's how I feel, right? So then I'm like, no criticism, but you've been a jerk, sort of, like I'm summarizing. You didn't say those things, but it kind of, that's the feeling that I'm getting out of it. Like, no criticism, but here's the various reasons you should feel ashamed or guilty. And so sort of, that's how I receive it.
Right. Although I didn't say that, but I understand that.
No. She did not say anything like that. What I'm saying is I'm seeing all the reasons in the world reflected to me that I could feel guilty about my behavior in the past or about whatever. Right. That's what I'm seeing from that interaction.
Clearly seeing the dumping part of the emotional process. Just do with yourself. You don't need to do it with another person. Yeah.
Or if you do want to talk about it with someone, then talking about it from the perspective and like making sure that everyone's aware that we're talking about a story here. We're talking about like our emotionality. We're not invested in the reality of it, but we do feel that it'll help to get the feelings out.
And I love that Eckhart Tolle just calls this the pain body. Like, okay, if we're in the pain body, try to have some mindfulness of, okay, what would be highest and best here? I don't need to share all this right now.
Exactly.
I think maybe we might have to have a part 2.
Yeah, because we did 2 points. We only did 2 points, and we have 8. So we need 4 parts.
Like literally, the first 2 points that we did are everything's important, but these 2 are so important. The forgiveness, love, and peace, and just humble yourself to spirit's guidance, basically.
We should just do the next one on Monday. We'll call it You Are Divine Timing.
Yeah, I love
these are literally each one of these are literally
a stream in itself.
I think probably.
Okay, maybe this is like a 8-part series.
Yeah, maybe that's what's happening right now.
Okay. Yeah, they're all really good.
It looked like thank you guys for chatting and stuff. I've been reading. We try to stay on topic and not join in on the chat as much, but we're always trying to balance that. But we do read all of the chat, and Tassel doesn't usually see during the stream, and then I send it to her after. But we read, we pay attention, and if we have questions come up, we do try to answer them as well. Really appreciate you guys hanging out. And I think that's it then for today, right? We're all done.
I think we're going to end there.
Excellent. So when you're in fear, when you're in pain, when you're upset with stuff, just chill, just relax. Just
wait.
have a bath, go look at some birds, or like listen to some heavy metal music and headbang for a few hours, and then text your partner that you love them.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. Yes, exactly. And just as a last little umbrella statement to the twin flame journey that we're on, don't give up. Don't give up. Don't lose hope. Sean and I have been through a lot of pain with each other. And at times it has felt like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. This is so hard. This is so unbearable. I'm kind of tearing up right now. But don't give up.
Don't give up. See, Tassel gets emotional. I told you guys. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. It's beautiful. I've told her so many times about how it's like a superpower, that she feels her feelings so much. So I didn't want to come off like I'm making fun of her. I'm not.
And I'm getting emotional because this journey can be very painful.
Yeah, it's intense.
It's just, you see all your stuff, you care about the other person so much. It can feel so high stakes. You can feel almost trapped. Like, I don't know what to do because I know I can't let go. And at the same time, this is so painful. So you don't know what to do. And I just say, just trust your path, trust the path.
Yeah.
Don't give up. You will get through it.
Trust your partner, even if she doesn't like the umbrella that you think you are.
Love the umbrella that you think you are. Yeah. Don't give up. Don't give up. You can do this. You can do this.
And yeah, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe below. Click the like button. It helps out the channel as well. We also have
sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
And maybe you were going to say the same thing. We have a really cool gathering next Thursday night. Is that what you were going to say?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. What's the gathering next Thursday? I don't even know what it is.
So next Thursday night, we have our Twin Flame support group.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. So directly related to this.
Yes. So if you're listening to this, you're on a Twin Flame journey, please join us next Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be on Zoom. We did one a few weeks ago. It was really helpful, I think, to everybody. And we have a Twin Flame Facebook group, support group as well.
Yep.
I'm going to put links in to this video for all that.
Good idea. Yeah. So there'll be a link below soon. And it's free, right? It's free. It's a free thing. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Okay.
Everything is free.
Excellent. I just making sure. We also have a course that is not free, but it's on it's what we call the Namaste Method. It's sort of like a communication model that we made for partners, basically, is sort of how we created it. And it's to help basically create peaceful communication, harmonious communication. And we may end up needing to update it more as we go, right? But
I think every month we could put out like some more lessons that we're learning. And Sean, hopefully by next Thursday we can put up our Divine Union Dojo course.
Right. Yes. We still have to chop that one up, I think. And
that is just specifically on more Divine Union teachings and expansions that we've been going through. So that will also be available as a course along with the Namaste Method.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Alrighty.
Appreciate your faces.
Thank you so much. So much love to you. And anyone on the Twin Flame journey, oh my gosh, just honor yourself. You are a courageous soul and you got this.
You got this. Take care, everyone.
Okay. Bye.
Gloria in Excelsis.